we focus on helping you claim what's rightfully yours, your health and your freedom. We explore the three main areas of health: the physical realm, the biochemical realm, and the mental and emotional realm. We also explore all the areas of lifestyle we can find that will help you live more abundantly, regardless of where you're starting. And remember, in life, you'll either make excuses or create results. You choose. I'm your host, Dr. Josh Hant, and I'm glad to be with you here today. Make sure to head on down to the show notes and click on the link to join our tribe of human-powered life heroes, where we'll update you on new shows, events, product launches, and so much more. Now, it's time to enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Human Powered Life podcast. We have an amazing guest today. His name is R. Blank. He's got a really cool company. We're going to be talking about EMF and actually mitigating EMF and helping people be healthy. So R, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here with you, Dr. Josh.
Yeah. I'm excited to have you here. I think this is going to be a great conversation. This is a topic that I think is going to be evolving immensely over the next, 5, 10, 15 years as technology is, in and around all of us all the time. I know people have a cell phone never more than 3 feet from their body. So yeah. EMF is close and nearby all the time. Well, let alone, electrical wires, all that stuff. I'll let you do all the detail stuff. So our two things. I have two questions we're going to start with. One, the name. I love it. Simple, easy. Where'd that come from? And two, just give us a little bit of a background, a little backstory behind you and what made you who you are today.
Sure. Okay. So, well, I guess the answer to both is my father. My father was Dr. Martin Blank, who was one of the world's leading scientists in the area of EMF and health effects. And R is a nickname that he gave me when I was growing up, and it's stuck. He was very into crossword puzzles, and there's layers, multiple layers at which that nickname is very clever.
Right.
And then
cool. I like it already.
And then how I got into what I'm doing is also because of him, right? So I mentioned he was one of the world's leading scientists in this area. He did decades of research at Columbia University Medical School, as well as other institutions around the world. He inadvertently or unintentionally, I should say, became an activist, very high profile in the communities that really wanted to do something about EMF exposure. And he testified before parliaments in Canada and Europe. And so it was 2012, and he got a contract to write a book about everything he had learned on this topic. But unlike everything he had written in his life previous, this book was meant to be understood by normal people. And so as he was going through that process of what became known as Overpowered, which is it's available on Amazon and on ebook for Kindle, and it's still, even 10 years later, one of the leading texts on this topic. He asked me for some help to make this an accessible, digestible work. And at that point, my career had been in software development, but I'd written a book and I had taught on the faculty of the University of Southern California. So I had a bit more experience in this type of thing. So I was happy to jump in and help. Now, he obviously was my father, so I always grew up around him. And so I knew kind of the work he did. But it was really in the context of writing that book with him that a few things really hit home. So one is that the science on this topic, the science that shows that EMF is bioactive, is incredibly strong. And when you hear it reported in the media, there's very often both sides is a bias to it. Like, oh, well, some science says it's really harmful. Other science says no. What are we going to? And so writing that book really exposed me to the depth of the science supporting the conclusions that this stuff is bioactive, that this stuff is harmful. But also, based on my background as a software engineer and I have an MBA, so I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I kind of took that frame to it and realized, well, the stuff that emits this stuff, and I should probably in a second get to explaining that, but the stuff that emits EMF forms the entire basis of modern society and modern economy. So you can't use a cell phone, obviously, without exposing yourself to EMF. You can't refrigerate your food without exposing yourself to EMF. And so you're not going to get rid of it. You're not going to regulate it away. There is no future of society that does not feature EMF exposure as part of it. So there had to be safer ways for people to engage with technology. And that's where the idea for what became SYB started. And so that was in 2012, launched my first product in 2013, and eventually went full time with SYB in 2016. So I've been going at this for 10 years and just over 6 years full time.
Wow. And that's really interesting, just being exposed, as a young man, like through all of this and starting to learn and learn and learn. I mean, it must have been, like, as I was a chiropractic kid, born into a chiropractic family. So my perception of the world was different than people that grew up in a very allopathic world. And then you're in this tech world where people are like, oh, EMF, fine. This is fine. All of this, don't worry about it. And then you're going, but I know it's not good for you. Like, because I know the real stuff. So what was that like? Was there as a young adult, like, did you have conversations? Were you surrounded by people, like friends that understood what you were learning, or were they going,
Yeah, this became a bit more of an issue. As I mentioned, I was in software engineering. I had a software engineering firm, and that was in Los Angeles, which obviously California, still to this day, the center of the tech industry. There's probably not an audience in the world less receptive to this message than the people I worked around. And I remember it was a thing in my office because I wouldn't allow a microwave oven in the office. And new employees would come on and they would have to, they'd have to learn through somebody else why that was, and you can't complain about it. But it was kind of mind-blowing to see just this stubborn refusal to acknowledge even the possibility that this stuff is harmful, because everyone, and I'd grown up in this and developed my career in this perception as well, where and it's a little different today, I think, but back then, everything that came from tech was good. It was cool. You wanted more of it. You wanted the newest thing, because what tech was doing for the world was so awesome and so beneficial. And so there's this bias to begin with. And then you have the fact that everyone's income and careers depends on this stuff being sold and consumed. Right. There's just this real curtain there, a brick wall that prevented people from even believing that this was possibly true. I feel like that has changed. I mean, there's still a long way to go. I feel like that has changed even in the past 5 years. But that was definitely characteristic of my experience.
I think that's
in my career.
That's pretty wild. I think my first real exposure, I'm guessing, like I said, pre-show, like maybe 2014, 2015. I don't remember exactly when. I went to a chiropractic conference called California Jam, Cal Jam in Southern California. And the people that show up are experts in the EMF world. Like we had like Mercola, we've had Dave Asprey. They have all of these people that are talking about different bits and pieces of health and well-being. And I'm like, this EMF thing is crazy. Like in my head, I'm like starting to learn little bits. I'm like, this is, it's like you said, it's in and all around everything that we do all day. And I started to hear it may have been Dave Asprey or may have been like a Ben Greenfield talking about like keeping a cell phone in a pocket and getting a DEXA scan after like 5 years of that same exact pocket and having bone density be lower in that one leg compared to the other. I'm like, holy crap, this stuff really, it's affecting the physiology of being a human. That's scary. And that's like a thing you can see, let alone what it may be doing to the cellular level. So I guess the next question really would be to like, maybe give an explanation of like maybe where it is, like where it's found in a home where people spend most of the time, or an office, and what are the most like intense amounts of EMF, like where you get the most intense exposure, which would be the most harmful to your health?
Sure. So EMF, and for those who don't know, it stands for electromagnetic field. It's also sometimes called electromagnetic radiation. It exists on a spectrum, right? So there's all different kinds of EMF, and one kind that everyone's aware of and that has been on the planet since the planet existed is sunlight. So sunlight is a form of EMF, and that sits right at the middle of this spectrum. Now, there's certain forms of EMF with even more energy than the sun, and that those are called ionizing. And that includes things like X-rays and gamma rays. And everyone knows those are incredibly harmful, even in incredibly small doses, which is why when you get a dental X-ray, right, they cover you in lead and leave the room while it's happening, because everyone knows this is really dangerous.
Yeah.
So then there are the forms with less energy than sunlight. And those are called non-ionizing forms of EMF radiation. And for a long time, it was believed that this stuff was benign, that it had no impact on life. Now, now, of course, as we're talking about it, we'll get into more, that assumption turned out to be false. But these forms of non-ionizing EMF radiation come from everything that communicates wirelessly.
Okay.
So that includes cell phones, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, radio, television. Yeah, exactly. And then also everything that runs on power, more so AC power than battery power. Although, it is both, but the bigger issue in most contexts is AC power. So that includes obviously power lines, the wiring in your home, blenders, refrigerators, even dumb refrigerators, right? All of these are sources of EMF in our lives. Now you asked, and by the way, I should be clear, generally when people like me, or as you mentioned, Mercola or Asprey, when we're talking about EMF, we're talking about these non-ionizing forms, the forms that come from modern technology that used to be thought to be safe, but now science shows us isn't.
Okay.
Now, in terms of the biggest forms, or I should say the biggest sources of individual exposure, a lot will depend on somebody's the characteristics of some individual's individual life. But there are some broad rules, I believe, that you can draw. So one is cell phones in pockets or bras. So one characteristic of EMF is that the power diminishes exponentially with distance. So if you have a phone and it's an inch away from your body, and then you move it, so now it's 2 inches away, you've cut the power of that exposure by 75%.
Oh, wow.
Conversely, what that means is when it's right up against your body, you are getting a full maximum dose of what this device has as its potential. And to be clear, these are very powerful transmitters, right? The cell phone connection is designed, the cell phone card is designed to communicate over miles. And that is just one of the wireless cards in there, right? Because you have Wi-Fi, you have Bluetooth, you have NFC for wireless payments, you have GPS, you have all of these multiple sources separately. And so phones are really big. And when you're carrying it in your pocket or in your bra, as many women do at the gym, you are getting a huge dose of it. And when you are carrying it in your pocket, you're generally doing so for extended periods of time, generally every day or most days. So I believe that for many, many people, despite how much EMF there is in the environment, and there is a lot, and it is growing every day, every month, every year, despite all of that, for many people, phones in the pocket is going to be one of their biggest, if not the biggest, sources of their personal exposure. And what that means is not carrying or stop carrying your phone in your pocket is one of the best changes, biggest differences that you can make in your own personal exposure. So that's the big one that I tell people all the time.
So I guess I guess when we get into the products now for a second, because as my wife, purse, no problem. Like it's not on her body. It's usually in our bag, or if it's not, like even me when we're home, like it's not on us, it's on a counter somewhere. Even when I'm in my office, it's not on me. It's there on a counter. So what would we do? Like, not that we all need our cell phones, but for the most part, everybody will say they need their cell phone. So I can't not have it when I'm out and about. What do we do?
Right. Well, so the first thing is, if you can, put it into airplane mode. Now, that means you won't get calls or texts, but you can always just take it out of your pocket, turn off airplane mode, check, and then reply to anything that needs a reply, and then put it back into airplane mode. When your phone is in airplane mode, virtually all of the EMF emissions are disabled.
Oh,
so
wow.
It becomes much, much safer. And in general, because as you know, and your audience is about to learn, my company, we make and sell EMF protection products, and they can serve a really important purpose. And we're about to talk about some of them. But the best in any instance where you have the option to eliminate the source of EMF, that is the best form of protection. Because no EMF protection product that exists is 100% effective. So turning it into airplane mode is the best option. Now, for those who can't, I make a few different products. One of them, which is my most popular now since I launched it 5.5 years ago, is my phone pouch. And the pouch is, and I apologize for not having my props handy.
They're going to be able to go to the website very easy on their phone, I'm sure.
Yeah, or a hardwired desktop computer. It works there too. But the phone pouch, it's a pouch that you put your phone in. The back of the pouch has radiation shielding. The front doesn't. And then you put your phone in the pouch, and then you put the pouch on your belt or in your pocket, and that will deflect radiation away from your body while still allowing your phone to work. All of my products, which with the exception of my headset products, which I can explain separately, all of my products use radiation shielding, which is universally accepted. It's demonstrable, it's measurable. Ever since Michael Faraday invented the Faraday cage,
I was going to say Faraday
years ago. Yeah. So what he showed is that if you weave conductive metals into certain patterns, you can block and deflect EMF radiation in the opposite direction, working very much like a window shade works on sunlight. And again, this is demonstrable, this is measurable. You can use a meter at home to see how well this stuff is working.
Yeah.
And so all of my product, because if people go out and they look for, they just Google EMF protection, there will be a lot of different options out there. There will be harmonizers, there will be pendants, there will be crystals and gems. And I never tell people not to use that stuff. I'm just pointing out that the type of protection that my company makes is actually the claims that I make and that my company makes are testable in a lab and testable at home by consumers with meters. And so I feel like that's an important differentiator between my product catalog and some others. So every product in my catalog is based on this type of shielding.
Okay, that's cool. So, I've asked this question to others and that are in your world, and this has got to be maybe now 2 years. We had the meter people come, they just, without swapped our meter out to a smart meter. All right. And, I'm like, crap, this, I don't want this Wi-Fi. I don't want all of this stuff. And it happens to be by our bedroom wall. Right. So we've done some mitigation, but what would be the best solution? For someone like me or anybody in the audience that has had, they throw a smart meter outside their house, maybe it's in a bedroom or in an office, and they just don't want to be exposed the whole time. Is there something that you have that I could say, great, let me put this on it and
so as a first step, I would encourage, I'm sure you did, but your listeners who might be in the same situation, to contact their utility and see if it can be removed. It's not always possible. Sometimes they basically force you. Sometimes, though, it is possible, and you'll have to pay some kind of monthly fee on top of your utility bill, but you can have it removed. If you can't have it removed, then I make a product that my customers use for this purpose. It's called the poster frame liner. And we call it the poster frame liner because that was originally what it was designed for, right? It's pre-cut into these shapes that are the sizes of common poster frames. So that you can apply EMF shielding and make it look like art. So you can, but you can use it without that too. You can just put it on the wall, and that's what a lot of my customers use if they have smart meters hanging outside their home.
Okay, so I guess my question, which will be my wife's question, is I put it because it's like on the side of our bedroom wall, like so we have our bed goes against the back of the wall and it's off to one side. Is it paintable?
You mean, can you paint on top of it?
Can I paint on top of it?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to I have to make sure of that first and foremost, because
or
I have
like
a white box on a wall that's a different color. I'm like, sorry, dear, it's for our health. And it may not be good for my health though.
Or you could put it into a poster frame and put whatever artwork makes your wife happiest.
Yeah, exactly. True. Okay. That may be the solution. Good. I'm glad we got that taken care of, because I know smart meters have become a huge thing all over the country. And I see the cars driving around every day, every single day.
Another product that I make that it's not specifically for smart meters, but we created it and added it to our catalog specifically because, for the first several years I was doing SYB, we focused on building products, and I realized that I later realized we're all focused on protecting you from sources of EMF that are largely in your control, right? So like the phone pouch, your cell phone's in your control. This is another form of protection that you can, but that's a product that's in your control. Same with the laptop pad. Having a laptop and how you use it, that's in your control.
Yes.
What I realized was I was leaving people more, let's say, unprotected from the growing number of sources that are outside of their control. And for that, think of just how many cell phone towers. I mean, looking out this window here, I can see 4 cell phone towers. That's not something that's in your control.
Yeah.
All of the Wi-Fi networks coming from your neighbors, that's not in your control. And so while it's not really possible or easy, let's say, to convert your home into a Faraday shielded home, I realized we could create a bed canopy. So while you're not fully protected all day long, you are fully protected all night long, which is a big chunk of the time of that you're around, right? It's like a third of your day. And it's also a really important third of your day. It's when you're supposed to be resting, rejuvenating, healing, preparing for the next day. So we now make and sell a few different styles of bed canopies that form a full 360 by 360 degree cage, in effect, around your bed and give you that level of protection, regardless of whether it's nearby cell towers or Wi-Fi networks or smart meters.
That's a great solution. Great solution.
Thank you.
I can imagine like me wanting to walk around and go on an airplane with one.
Yeah.
But all right, so this is good. So I think we have some really good content here so far. I'm learning a ton, and I think the products are really neat. And I love that it's like we're obviously not getting rid of EMF, like you said, in our lifetime. I think it's just going to exponentially grow. I just hope the powers that be that are creating, like, for instance, like, I hear tons and tons about 5G and how impactful or how powerful it can be as far as EMF radiation compared to even just a generation before. Are there other solutions? Have you been researching and seeing other things that may be potential to help with the fast growing changes that are happening in that world? Hey, we're giving you a short break here where you can head down to the show notes or lifestylelocker.com and join our tribe of human-powered life heroes. You'll be the first to know about new shows, events, product launches, affiliate specials, and more. And now, back to the show.
Like what? Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, because we have the technology which has been tested right now. Like your fathers helped, do all this research from, generation, decades ago to where we are today. We have all of this content, all these products now that are, aiming EMF away from the body with the strength of the EMF or the strength of this radiation that's getting more powerful, will it impact technology like yours? Like I'm just thinking like, superheroes like battling with energy, right? Okay, we have the bad stuff and then we have the block. Like if this becomes so powerful, how will it make a difference to technology like yours? Or does something need to happen? Do we need to double down on it?
In general terms, right? Even as they add more and more and more EMF into the environment, everything you can do to reduce your EMF exposure is going to help you. So even though, if you're just using my phone pouch, but there's more and more EMF around you every day, it's still beneficial to use the phone pouch. Or even if you're just turning your phone into airplane mode, but there's more and more EMF around you and you're still being exposed to it, it's still beneficial to turn your phone into airplane mode, because there is a demonstrated dose response relationship between EMF exposure and health risks. So that is my answer to that question. I would underscore, right, that this stuff is being rolled out incredibly recklessly. And we could do a whole separate show about the failures of EMF regulations. But to keep it kind of short, to pick one example, is these AirPods or any Bluetooth headset that is now incredibly popular, right? And to be clear, Bluetooth is basically the same as Wi-Fi, just with lower power. But people are carrying them in both ears, proximal to the brain, for hours at a time, often with the phone elsewhere on their body. There has obviously been no long-term research into the health effects of Bluetooth headphones, because they haven't existed. You pointed out earlier, there's certain physiological characteristics that you can measure after just a couple of hours or a day or two of use. But a lot of the more serious diseases that people are most worried about, these take 5, 10, 15, 20, even 30 years to develop. There's no way that you can conduct that kind of safety testing on technology that's existed for a couple of years. And so this stuff is being released into the marketplace without any of this long-term testing. And people, as I heard you talk about on other episodes, right? People want to assume that if something's available for sale, that means it's safe. But we also know the other side of that is that it's not, right? Because that's not how any of this stuff is tested or regulated. And we're doing that over and over and over. We have no idea what the health impact of the EMF exposure from driving a Tesla over 5, 10, 15, 20 years is going to be. And so we are the experiment. We are the guinea pigs. And that's why it is so important for people to be making the changes that they can make, like putting their phone into airplane mode or turning their Wi-Fi off at night, taking the steps to reduce your exposure, because so much of your exposure is really, it's not just outside of your control, it is growing and growing and growing every year.
Yeah, I think your next product's gonna be like Tesla floor mats and seat covers.
We get asked about cars all the time. It's it's a really complicated thing.
I said this on older episodes. I had a thought when they first come out, I commute to the city and I'm like, it'd be a great vehicle. Not even thinking about the cost of actually charging the thing in my house. Now I know how expensive it is to charge one of the things that costs more than my fuel, plugging it into my house. But my mechanic, I was talking to him about it, and he goes, would you live under power lines? I'm like,
oh, really? Your mechanic said that?
Yeah. I go, no. He goes, why the hell would you want to sit on a multiple 1,000-pound giant battery?
Yeah.
I go, good point. Thank you. It was it. Simple. Like it was like Mr. Simple thinking simply, which most of us don't. We just think like, oh my God, so cool. We don't have to pay for gas. And then you pay $300 extra a month for power, or whatever it is. And then you don't know the health, the benefits, the ramifications of what you're doing to your own body, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the more people that become aware of this, the more pressure there will be on companies to start. Again, you're not getting rid of EMF, but there is a lot that these companies could do in terms of product design, in terms of standards development, that really start to bring down the levels from their products. And they really basically aren't doing that now. So the more aware people become, the more pressure there will be for manufacturers to start doing that.
Yeah, they just need to refine. I mean, just I would think it would make sense. I mean, obviously, it's like, we're not regulated. We can do whatever the hell we want. Let's just pump it out. We know that EMF is bad. We know that it's, going through their brains. We know that their phone in their pocket can cause cancer. I mean, when you get your new cell phone, it says it on the piece of paper that's in the box. This can cause cancer. I mean, how many people actually read that?
Yeah, and people don't read the manuals. I mean, if you read the iPhone manual, it tells you not to carry it in your pocket. But no one,
like, don't put it against
your
head.
Or to hold it up against your head.
Don't put it against your head. And you're like, huh?
Like, isn't it literally designed to be held up against my head? Like, isn't that
exactly
how it works?
So so I want to just jump back, because where cell phones are like probably the most popular piece of technology that people use around the world. And you mentioned, you have like the, from the shielding, the tent to the phone pouch to all of these other different things. But you said the headphones are different. The technology you use. Can you just talk a little bit about what they are? How
Sure.
that works?
So I have two kinds of headphone products. One is called air tubes. And again, I do happen to have a prop available.
There we go.
So let me start by saying, I already gave my speech against wireless headphones, Bluetooth headphones. Don't use those. And we already talked about don't hold the phone up to your head. So that leaves using wired headphones or speakerphone. Speakerphone is great if you're in an environment like where you can get away with it. If you're out among a lot of people, that isn't practical. So that leaves wired headphones. And wired headphones, even the traditional standard kind, are much, much, much safer than Bluetooth headphones or holding the phone up to your head. So I do not want to discourage people from using standard wired headphones. The issue comes is that because they are wired headphones, they literally have wire in them. They can conduct a portion of your cell phone radiation along the wire up into the earpiece and right near your brain,
like an antenna.
Exactly. So we make air tube headphones, which at a point along the wire, the sound gets converted from being conducted over wire to being conducted over air. So you can't, the EMF is no longer conducted over that portion of the headset. And that is a great way to actually cut off the radiation. The downside is that audio conducted over air doesn't sound as good as audio conducted over wire.
Fair enough.
So I use this, that's why I had it handy. I didn't even need to prep it as a prop, right? I use this all the time for phone calls and for listening to podcasts, but I wouldn't listen to music on it, for instance, or I probably wouldn't even watch a video on it. And so that's where what we call the hard comes in. And the hard is an adapter. And what that allows you to do is you plug the hard into your phone, and then you plug whatever pair of headphones you want into the hard. And inside the hard, there's a pack of dielectric gel. And what that does, the way it's wired through that dielectric gel, the gel absorbs that stray radiation I was talking about and converts it to a tiny imperceptible amount of heat, which then dissipates. So the hard allows you to turn any headset into an anti-radiation headset. And in fact, not only does it not degrade the sound quality, it improves the sound quality. In fact, that's how the product was originally invented and designed, was as an audio quality enhancer, because all of that EMF radiation, that's basically a form of static on the sound signal.
Yeah, the noise people hear.
So by stripping it off of the wire, you're actually improving the sound quality. So the hard is a fantastic product because it gets you the radiation protection while actually improving the sound quality of your experience.
I think that's actually pretty neat. I like that because, not like you said, people buy these high-end headphones because they sound good. They may not be good for you, but the sound quality is great. So you have a piece of technology that can probably even take a moderate pair of headphones and make them sound like the high-end headphones that they wanted to buy.
Yeah,
which is pretty neat.
Thank you.
So let's just finish up here with this segment. So, where's the best place for people to find you?
Oh, sure. Shieldyourbody.com. So that's shieldYourBody, all one word, .com. Or if you prefer social, where our handle is Shield Your Body on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. And I think that's it. Those are the big ones for us.
The biggies. All right, perfect. So
Yeah.
everybody, make sure you scroll down the show notes. We'll have all of those links, all the details for you. And make sure you hang on in just a minute and go to lifestylelocker.com, find this episode, and you'll see part 2, the video, which will be coming up in just a minute. All right, this has been awesome. I love learning.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Great guest. And I think people are going to be heading over to your store to so they can put their phones in the pockets in a healthier way. So I appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Human Powered Life podcast. Make sure to head over to lifestylelocker.com to check out all the details on the show and to watch part 2 of this episode, which is only in video format. We also have this audio portion in video format if you want. Once again, I'm your host, Dr. Josh Hant, for the Human Powered Life podcast, and I'm looking forward to staying connected with you as a Human Powered Life hero. Remember to join the tribe, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.